Hey, what is up, everyone? Kellyinvegas here. Stephen Cheah, a.k.a. Bubble Boy. Steven, what the hell is going on in the office today?
I threw up a tweet. We have a punishment that's been long overdue that I have to endure called the Stinky Cloud. And Big Cat ordered I guess you call it a tent, a personal tent, where it'll be filled with bad smells tomorrow night. It'll air on Friday's show for about 10 minutes. And he wanted me to open it up and kind of test it out. And when I did, it actually sits like kind of perfectly over a person sitting in a chair. So they were like, oh, this would be really funny. Go to your desk. We'll throw up like a COVID tweet. So we did. It's doing numbies right now. So it's
It really is.
any publicity is good publicity. And the tweet's crushing. So
at least your name is spelled right today. I almost purposely misspelled your name just for fun. No rebuttal from the Barstool account. Like, come on.
I mean, if they're gonna, it would be one thing if it's like a mistake. It's a common mistake, but if they're tagging me in it, it's literally in the tag. Like you're purposely misdoing it. Like, come on.
Either that or just like when people spell Kelly wrong, I'm like, Kelly is literally in the very first part of the Twitter bio. Never mind. We're going to talk some NBA playoffs today. Well, they don't actually start till Saturday. We've got a couple play-in games tonight, a couple more on Friday. Cheah, before we get into it, I want to know how you're going to plan on attacking the next 6 to 8 weeks, right? The NBA playoffs are a whole different animal. We know that during the season, teams start to tank, guys start to care about contract extensions and so forth. So as far as like whether it be the props market, the futures market, what are some of your thoughts going into the next 2 months?
Yeah, the things are getting better now. The past week was terrible. I mean, Portland was playing G Leaguers. A lot of guys were late scratches. We saw Luka Doncic play a quarter. So the prop market the past week has been awful. Like, honestly, borderline unplayable. My results have been terrible. I was on a 4-game skid to end the season, which is awful. It's just hard to see who's playing for something and who's not, because you might get a guy that you think has a good line, but they're going to take him out after a quarter or a half or things like that. So very, very tough to see. We had a brutal loss last night. We did a 2-leg parlay. What I'm seeing now is the how would I phrase it? Like the more commonly played props have a lot of juice on them. So what you want to do, and now what's great about the Barstool Sportsbook is they have alternative lines. So like the play today for me is Gary Trent Jr. He's a shooting guard for the Toronto Raptors. I like his over 1.5 3-pointers, but that's at -141, which is a little bit too much juice for a single play. So I'll parlay that with his alternate scoring line under. So his regular line is 12.5. I like him at 10.5 points today, which is like -300 or -250, something like that. If you parlay those both together, it becomes a much more digestible -110. So that's my official play today. But as far as attacking the next few weeks, we'll look at individual matchups. We'll look at past playoff history. It's really an unders market right now, which is kind of tough. We've seen, I think, going into yesterday, it was 6 games in a row, 6 play-in games in a row have gone under. Defense is certainly ratcheting up. Possessions mean more, but you can still find some alleys. Yesterday, we had a nice hit with Bam Adebayo, over 2.5, and then over 3.5 assists plus 155, which I gave out on my YouTube show. So there are pockets that you can find, but then you might get an Anthony Edwards dud where he's 0 for 9 from downtown. So
I saw that tweet, and I knew that I had missed it, and I saw it, and I was like, oh yes. I knew you were kind of due for some regression there, but that was a rough stretch. We've all been there. Hi, talk to me like last couple weeks of January. I was ready to just jump off my roof, not kill myself, just break both my legs so I didn't have to work because it was so brutal. So I get it, but Anthony Edwards, just downright, just gross performance from him.
3-pointers is actually my best category by far.
Okay.
So on the season, let me see, keep track of these all individually. So threes made, I'm 22 and now 7. I was 22 and 6 going to last night. That's 79%. Very good mark. What we can predict with 3-pointers fairly reliably is volume. If a guy's going to get a certain amount of shots, you can relatively, you have a pretty good idea of how many shots he can make based on his percentages. And that's where we kind of attack. If we see an uptick in volume, that's when I'll kind of go after a 3-point shooter. Anthony Edwards took 9 3-point shots. The guy shoots 39% on the road. His 7 postseason games, he hit 3 3-pointers or more. It seems like a fairly safe play. The juice was minus 155, so we had to parlay it with something else to kind of get it more playable. 0 for 9, nothing you can really do about that. The volume's there. That's, we're hoping.
And that's what you can only ask for, right? I mean,
yeah,
being hot from 3 is not something that every single NBA player can do. Not everybody is Steph Curry, which seems to have a rare off night every once in a while himself. All right, we're going to get into 2 games. First one, Chicago Bulls, Toronto Raptors. Barstool Sportsbook current line is +6. Cheah, you mentioned the unders. 212.5 is the total. I feel like now I'm a little late to jump on that under train, but I can see why. During the playoffs, during the playing games, now that college basketball is over, NFL has been over, there's not a lot going on for those sports bettors. So now they're starting to get more involved in things like NBA. So a lot more public money does come into the marketplace. And I think the bookmakers know that. And they're going to add a little bit of a premium to, like you mentioned, some of those big name stars, as well as some of these games that they know are only getting bet one way. And that is probably favorite to the over. Bulls. Now, the Bulls kind of were one of those teams where I feel like they kind of started to drop off there a little bit. They added our good friend Pat Bev, and things started to go a little bit better for them. But as they face Toronto this season, they've been absolutely hot garbage, averaging just 104 points a game. I think if the Bulls want to win this one, they need LaVine and DeRozan to really make a splash. I'm not sure that's going to happen tonight. Do you have a prop bet in this one that you like, or do you have an opinion on maybe the side or total?
Yep. So one thing I will say about the totals is if you're going to look at unders, I think first quarter is a decent spot. They're going to have their star defensive players on the floor, Patrick Beverley, Alex Caruso, et cetera. And we are going to see things get pretty tight. Like we saw Miami, I think in the first 8 or 9 minutes, they had 4 field goals last night. Just the defense is ratcheted up. Everyone's really excited to play, and also nerves kind of play into that a little bit as well. It's 52 tonight. I don't hate that under. I think that's a pretty decent number as far as the first quarter. My official play is in this game. It's Gary Trent Jr. over 1.5 threes, parlayed with Gary Trent Jr. over 10.5 points. That's down from his total of 12.5. I like that. He's hit that in 4 straight playoff games. He's hit the threes in 6 straight, or 5 out of his last 6 against Chicago. He's hit the points in 6 of his last 6 against Chicago. He's getting back from injury. He's playing a little bit less since they acquired Jakob Poeltl, but I do like him in this spot. He's reliable. He's their 3-point shooter. They do have OG Anunoby, but he is their guy. He doesn't always draw the start, which is something to be wary of, but he is going to play, at least in the mid-20s minutes-wise. I like him to shoot about 6 threes today. Two threes is a pretty fair mark for that. So we like Gary Trent Jr. over 3s and then also over 10.5 points.
Cheah, do you prefer to bet some of these guys that, and now Gary Trent Jr. is far from under the radar, but like you mentioned, he may not be one of the starters tonight. He may be, 6th or 7th guy there. Do you prefer to kind of find those guys because maybe the bookmakers have overlooked them, or is it just so happen to be you just don't bet the big name stars usually?
I would prefer to bet like more seasoned guys. Like you see Mike Conley Jr., who's, kind of an average statistical performer throughout the year, better in assists certainly. But he's seasoned. He kind of knows what to expect. He's been in bigger games than a play-in game. Whereas you see, Anthony Edwards, he had, one series in a play-in game last year, and obviously not a great game. You do see like veterans, Kyle Anderson, another good example. He's just a veteran who steps up. I think Gary Trent Jr. kind of fits that mold. They are a pretty veteran-laden team. The other prop that I would look for that game, I debated it for my final play, was Scotty Barnes over 6.5 boards. I think this is maybe 1 rebound too low. He's been a little bit erratic, had 2 really weird games against Charlotte, and then 2 games to close the season that were kind of like, one of them was like an absolute mollywhopping against the Celtics, where there were no rebounds to really be had. But I like him. He's in his last 4 games against the Bulls, I believe he's cleared this. In all of his playoff games, he's averaging 9 boards per game in the playoffs. I think he's in a spot where he can maybe sag off some shooters. It's going to be a lot of helping with Nikola Vucevic on the board. So I like Scotty Barnes clean the glass 7+ times tonight.
I like that as well. Cheah, last question in regards to the data. When I'm doing things and I like to manipulate data, if you will, right? I like to throw games out or maybe throw out a certain stat that doesn't fit my narrative for either for my bet or for our shows. Do you ever do that? You mentioned a couple guys having just weird one-off type games, maybe 2 bad games in a row, and then right back to their norm. Do you ever maybe take those out of the equation and say, all right, I watched this game wire to wire. This was a bad matchup for X player versus Y player, and that's why he didn't perform at the level that I expected him to?
Certainly. So I think bounce back is a good indicator of a future good game. So in my ideal world, I'm going to see a guy who's, let's say he's hit 3+ 3-pointers in like 7 straight games, and then he puts up a dud and he has 0 threes, but he's still shot it, maybe 8 or 9 times. That's something where I'd look at as like, whoa, his volume's good. He was just off. And maybe he's, what I look for is the type of guy he is. Is he like a, one guy, Tyler Hero or Klay Thompson or something like that, where these guys are just gym rats. They're going to be, back in the lab, right after the game the next morning, probably both shoot around. They're going to fix whatever that minor issue was, and they'll be back. They're just really good shooters. So that's certainly something that I look for. Is a guy coming out. Lauri Markkanen had a really good game after he had like a 3 for 23 or something like that earlier this season. So those type of really good players and good shooters coming off a bad shooting game, but the volume is good. I love to attack those.
I do as
that being said,
well.
Anthony Edwards is banned for 2 years.
Is he? Is he on the do not bet list for 2 whole years?
2 years.
All right, let's go to the next.
There was one game last year where I said I'd put him on the do not bet list, but I kind of softened the stance. There was a game last year where he got called out for not rebounding. And I think his rebound line was like 5.5. And he made a comment before the game, like, I'm going to attack the glass tonight. Like, it's all about the rebounds tonight. I don't care what else I do. I'm going to rebound. That signals to prop bettors, like, I'm going to clean the glass tonight. I'm taking him at face value. And he did not. He was very apathetic on the glass. I think he finished with like 4 or 5. So after that, it was like, all right, we're going to hang off this guy for a bit. Bet him again this year where he was on a hot streak. And, I don't watch the Timberwolves every night. I'll admit that. I don't watch every game every night. But if I have,
you can't. I mean, you need to have some semblance of a life.
Yeah, I'm watching the whole game. So, the other game I bet on Anthony Edwards, he just looks so apathetic. Last night, this guy must lead the league in just standing around. He was 35 feet from the hoop, just grabbing his shorts for half the game.
He must lead the league for standing around. I love that. All right, Oklahoma City, 5.5 point underdogs at the Barstool Sportsbook, total 227. This one's kind of interesting. They're taking on Mincy's New Orleans Pelicans, and the Pels, we know, traditionally had a nice ATS home streak there for a little bit. They started to fall off at the end, and then Oklahoma City, shockingly, was better on the road against the spread, and they were one of the better ATS teams, and they've also fallen off. They've only covered 2 of their last 10, while New Orleans finally picked it up and have finally started covering a game again. This one is interesting, and I'm going to be honest with you. You have the Thunder, who were just basically dead on arrival before the season even started. If you listen to any of the talk, the Thunder were going to be terrible. They were going to be the worst team in the league. Not quite, but damn close. And overall, I think they had a really good season. Yeah, they finished 40-42, but they ended the season on a high note. They won at home against the Grizz. Now, I'm not saying that I love this play, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has been great. He has led this team over 31 points per game and got them into this play-in tournament. This is obviously a win or go home type scenario. Cheah, do you like any Shai Gilgeous-Alexander props, or is he one of those types of guys where you're going, all right, his name is too big. Everybody's expecting him to take control of this game. If the Thunder are going to win it, it's going to be on his back.
Yeah, to be honest, I hate this game from a prop.
You do? Oh, from a props perspective. Okay.
From a props perspective, because, and it's not just like SGA is really good because, his line is 32.5 points tonight. There's more juice on the over. It's just a tough game to handicap because the matchups are really tough. I'm a guy who has bet unders, does not like betting unders. So we've got Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. He's going to be defended by Herb Jones, who's one of the best defenders in the league. Another University of Kentucky guy. he's going to make life hard on him. Sure, he's going to go hunt guys on switches and that type of thing. Herb Jones is not going to be on him 100% of the time. That being said, Herb Jones is going to make life a little bit more difficult for him. On the other side, nobody in the NBA has been hotter than Brandon Ingram. He's going to have Lou Dort attached to him as one of the better on-ball defenders in the league. That makes me a little bit wary. And also for Lou Dort, like, okay, is he going to get in foul trouble? Do we like the under, or is he going to be like so involved that he's just, getting rebounds, getting steals, getting, assists, that type of thing. So from a props market, I'm kind of staying away from this game. There is not a single thing that stood out to me. If I had to like bet on one guy, it'd be Josh Giddey, but like he's still so young, and I think rebounds are going to be there to be had, but I really do not like this game.
Well, we do know that Zion has already been ruled out for this, and it sounds like a lot of the playoffs. Depending on where you read, that's not good news for the Pels, but that's not why I like this game. They've been without him several times this year. I do think that, yes, you have a good defensive team in the Pelicans, but the Thunder is going to be able to limit their second chance opportunities. That's exactly what I expect. I lean the under in this one as well, but I couldn't help but grab the 5.5 points. And I'll be honest with you, Cheah, I did sprinkle just a tiny bit on the plus 190, just a little bit, just for fun, just to get my juices flowing for NBA season. Anything else you'd like to add before we end the show?
We will be doing a lot more first basket. So first basket is something that
people love those.
They're very quick. The payouts can be huge. So like even a low payout's like plus 300, but you can get into plus 1,000, plus more. There was a streak last year we hit in the playoffs where we did it 3 days in a row and hit 10-1 or more 3 days in a row. You can find some. I feel like you can in 7-game series, you can fairly reliably predict who is going to win the tip. From there, you can then deduce, okay, what are the good value plays based on how they've previously run first basket against this team and recently. So I think that there will be value to be had. Right now we're in the play-in round, so not a ton of historical data recently between these two teams. Teams sat guys towards the end of the season, etc. So we're not doing it yet, but when we get to 7-game series, first baskets will be a big thing. Barstool Sportsbook, the rules are first basket is only first field goal, not free throw. So first field goal.
Okay. Yes. Always read the rules at the sportsbook. The most notable thing I used to preach all the time. Stephen Cheah at Trust the Data over on Twitter. He's on the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube channel every single day, giving out his parlay. Stephen, let everybody know what time they can find it, what time it's usually out. I know you go live. Give it out to everybody in the universe on Twitter as well.
Yep. So we do it on YouTube first, Monday through Friday. The time depends. Sometimes it's right before Pick Central. Sometimes it's right after Pick Central. It's usually going to be one of those two things because obviously Pick Central is live from 12 to about 12:56, 12:57. So we're going to go on at 12:57 or like 11:50. Usually one of those times. I'll tweet the pick out a little bit later, usually around between 3 and 5 o'clock. Depending if we're waiting for injuries or whatnot. And you can find that at Trust the Data or on my personal account at Stephen Cheah.
Love it. Stephen Cheah with a silent H at the end. Let's go, Gary Trent Jr. And of course, the Oklahoma City Thunder. Thank you to Cheah for always hanging out. And thank you to you guys for jumping in the comment section, telling us you love us, telling us you hate us. We appreciate you for being here. Everybody have a happy Wednesday.